We are asked to solve this equation. And the first thing we should notice about it is that x squared, so it's quadratic. So your options are factoring or the quadratic formula. So we are going to use the quadratic formula here. But you can always look and see if you can factor, and we'll talk about if you can or not. I don't actually know off the top of my head if this is factorable or not. So first thing I'm going to do, though, is I look at this, and even if I'm going into the quadratic equation, I'm still going to get rid of the fractions. I don't want no fractions. Fractions just make everything messier. So I'm going to times everything by 2 as my first step. So I'm going to end up with x squared minus 6 equals negative 9x. Okay, now my next step, no matter what my method, okay, so this is my first step, and it doesn't matter what my method is, okay? So whether you were factoring back in chapter 6 or using the quadratic now in chapter 8, doesn't matter. First step, clear the fractions because it's going to make everything easier. Second step, again, no matter what your method, set it equal to 0. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to get x squared plus 9x because I'm moving it sides. So I change the sign because I'm really adding 9x to both sides. Okay. Now at this point, I'm looking at it going, can I factor? And looking at that 6, I'm like, it's 2 and 3 and 1 and 6. I can't get a 9. So I'm like, I'm not going to mess with it. Now, and in general, if you look at something and you go, I don't know, like you look at it, nothing's popping up, you can always get out the quadratic. Factoring, if possible, is faster, but don't stare at it for 5 minutes hoping that a factor will appear. Okay, so negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Okay, so looking at this, a is 1. Okay, nothing out here. B is 9. C is negative 6. If you had not moved this, you would have got a negative 9. You would have got the wrong answer. Make sure you set it equal to 0 before you do this, or you will get the wrong answer. Okay. Now I'm going to plug these in. So I have negative 9 plus or minus, okay, b squared, so that's 81 minus 4ac all over 2a. So negative 9 plus or minus 81 plus 24 over 2. Okay, 81 plus 24 is 105. So right now I'm at negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 105 over 2. But I'm going to ask myself, can I simplify this? So let's see here. What does 5 go in? Let's see here. 2, 10. So 21. Okay, so no, there's no perfect. What I'm looking for is perfect squares. It's 5 times 3 times 7, no perfect squares. This is my answer. Heads up though, when you put this into my math lab, it's going to make you put it in like this. Okay, dumb, but it's going to. So just a heads up on that. But this is fine. This is how we normally write it. You could, of course, write it in 2 parts. You could do it as negative 9 halves plus 1 half 105 or 105 over 2. In general, we tend to write it more like this, but it's important to be able to look at these 2 versions and realize they're the exact same thing. You should be able to look at that and easily move between one and the other in your head. If you can't, that's kind of a problem, especially on a lot of my math lab ones, which on the test are going to be multiple choice. And if you end up in one form and they have another one, it can get really thin. That flexibility to look and go, oh, these are the same thing, that's an important part because then that also means you understand the rules of how things combine and how they divvy up. So just make sure you're realizing that there are a couple different forms. They're all valid. They all give you the same answer. You do not want the decimal. Now on the applications, we will get the decimal, but on these, they're going to say exact. They want the radicals. So just plugging it in and getting a decimal off like Desmos isn't going to help you because that isn't this answer.